Hallå, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hör du mig? Hej. Ja, det är inte här. Fråga vad den Sjöstads föreningen. Ja, ljudet är på nu. Hallå, 1, 2. Hör du mig? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Jag skulle testa din dator om det är någonting. Ja, här hörs det ut. Så det måste ju vara i så fall kopplingen till sändningen i så fall. Hallå. Hallå. 1, 2, 1, 2. Ja, jag tänkte jag skulle skriva in det här. Vi försöker bara få kontakt med... Skulle du kunna kolla om du kan koppla upp din dator, Pierre? Får du in det? Nej, här ute hörs det. Så det måste ju vara kopplingen till YouTube i så fall som ska sättas igång någonstans. Vi har inte gått ut jättehårt, men det är ju bra om det spelas in, för då kan vi ju hänvisa till det sen. Så att det är inte så att vi säger att vi kör live. Ja.
Hello. Hi, that one works. Oh, there's me in the background.
Kvaliteten är ju...
Wait. Oh, I can hear myself like double all the time.
What did you say? You have double audio?
Yeah, I can hear myself talk.
Because people are talking, I think.
No, I think we have through this, maybe we
I have an echo.
You can deactivate one microphone. What I think I'm gonna do is we're gonna mute our microphone when when you talk. I'm gonna do this.
Do you hear us now?
Okay, so I do it again.
Do you hear us now?
No, I can't
Yeah, so we're just gonna mute, I think,
hear
ourselves.
myself. Now.
Yeah, it doesn't work too great. Can we? Maybe we could try with Skype.
Uh-oh.
Ja, absolut.
Okay, we're trying with Skype. I can send you. What's your Sweco address?
På den vanliga är det Kristoffer Sjöholm. Alltså utan punkt. Kristoffer Sjöholm.
Can you send me your Skype address, Adriana, or is it just Adriana?
I don't have Skype
She don't have Skype
anymore.
Okay, well, let's go with. I don't know. Let me try to send you.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. Hey, but the problem is still that I have an echo. Like I hear myself talk all the time. I can hear you, yeah? Yeah, just for myself. Right. If you mute the microphone, then I just can't hear anything, of course, but then I don't hear myself as well. So, but if there's any question or anything, I wouldn't recognize it. All right, I'm here.
Okej, är det någon som vet om det är någon vi väntar på eller någon som är på väg? Ja, kul att ni är här. Pierre ska berätta lite mer om Civic Tech. Först, är det någon här som inte pratar svenska eller förstår svenska? Someone doesn't understand Swedish? Okej. Ja. Som kommer komma hit. Ja. Okay, we try in Swedish then. So welcome. My name is Kristoffer Sjöholm, and I'm a part of the Civic Tech Sweden network. It's a very loose network, and Pierre will say something more about Civic Tech and what we're doing right now. But today we will have agenda that looks like this. So very short, Pierre will present like 10 minutes about Civic Tech Sweden and what Civic Tech is. And then Annie from Vinnova, who is one of the responsible for the utlysning in Civic Tech. What's the English word? Open call. We'll tell a little bit about that. And since it's the first time it's the Civic Tech open call, we think it's really interesting that we can gather. And one of the things with this call is that you actually need to have a partner. If you don't have a partner, you can't go for it. So this evening is really about connecting people and finding partners for this open call. After that, we will have a presentation from Adriana Groh from Prototype Fund in Germany, who has something quite similar to this that I think will be very interesting. And then at 1900 around, you will have your chance to present your idea. We are not so many here today. How many of you wants to present something? If we 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have like 3 ourselves. 7 maybe. So like 5 minutes each, I would say. And we can switch if you have a presentation, I think, but remember to keep it under 5 minutes in that case. But then, since it's a small place and you will have like at least 40-50 minutes to talk after this, so you can show yourself. So if you just want to present and talk, you can do that. If you have a presentation, we will try to switch computers. It will be in a kind of do-it-yourself style, I think. So, but first, Pierre, do you want to say something about Civic Tech and what we're doing?
Can you hear me? Or yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna give you a definition or something, because I've been presenting what is Civic Tech for a long time in Sweden, and no one gets it anyway. So what I was thinking is I could give you some clues about what it looks like in other countries. We could look at the Wikipedia definition, for example, in English, that says that it's basically technology and people and government. We could look at some taxonomies that have been done by researchers a few years ago. So this one, for example, is a bit conflictual because it includes also this big bubble is Airbnb, which is, I wouldn't consider it Civic Tech, but at that time, these people thought they would include it because it's sharing economy. So, but now probably no one would think Airbnb is, I don't know, whatever. This is another one. It's from the same report, but I think it's also interesting. It gives you a mix between transparency, open data, social causes, GovTech, government funding for technology, sharing economy. This one is a French one, if you can read French. In France, it's a lot more about politics and democracy, so how you take decisions together. So it's platform, for example, to write the law together, platforms to share the municipal budget democratically. So it's direct democracy, participatory democracy, and tech. And this one is from the Ministry of Economy, Ministry in Economy in France. This one is from an NGO, and I thought it was interesting. So it's a Medium post, so you can read. I would send you a presentation afterwards. And then he says that there's 3 categories in civic tech. It's GovTech, advocacy, and voting. It's another definition. I won't have the time to go in depth. So my point is that there's a lot of definition, and this is, for example, the civic tech ecosystem in France. It's a mapping, a lot of different startups. This is what they did with it in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, they have problems with their democracy, and so there was a group of hackers who decided to equip activists and protesters with tools so that they could do grassroots organizations. So that's what the civic tech movement grew from in Taiwan. They do really interesting projects. So if you want to check it out, you can check our previous meetup where we had an activist from Taiwan talk about what they do. What's interesting is to look at what it looks like in the world. So this one is the Code for All network. It's a network we are in. We're shortly in. We're going to be announced in December. Civic Tech Sweden, our organization. And you can see and check out what all these organizations do in various countries. So for example, last week also Sushma talked about what she does in Nepal, which was also really interesting and quite different from what they do in France. Or again, a few more examples. In Code for Australia, they do a lot of service design in the public sector, and they try to use it to reach out to some communities and try to build services that are more adapted to them. Some of the principles that they have. One of the ones I think is interesting and quite common is that everything is usually open source, open data, and it's really open by default, that you don't build a business model in a startup way where you try to reach a critical mass really quickly and take the whole market. Instead, often you build and nurture an ecosystem where you can coexist with different organizations using the same code, the same data in a healthy way. Another example, Code for Germany, which is really local based. So they have hackerspaces in a lot of German cities, and they do a lot of cool projects regarding transparency, politics, but also other projects that are more like social innovation. And this is another example in Poland that I really like. It's people that they are really cool. They call the foundation o.Państwo, but they also behind Code for Poland, and they work a lot with open data. They also have a strong lobbying force. So in Poland, I don't know if you know how it's doing. With democracy and all, it's doing bad. And so these guys are really at the forefront of, it's almost whistleblowers in a way. They get documents, they show them to the public. They can have a huge impact on elections, because when the government is releasing fake news every week, they are really involved in fighting against fake news in this case. So I think my point is that civic tech is really adapted to the local context. And so if we're looking for a definition, usually some people think it's open data and transparency, but it's not only this. Some people think it's GovTech because they work in the government. So like, oh, yeah, this is some people think it's tech for good. Some other people think it's sharing economy. In practice, it's none of this really, and it's all of this. It's really what I think is that it doesn't really matter how we define it. It matters how we define it in Sweden, but we'll see what it looks like, I think, when it's grown, and what people do with it. I think it's really important that the projects that people do that are called civic tech are meaningful and deliver a change. And in that case, I think they should be adapted to what people think they need in Sweden. What did I have? Yeah, so now we could talk a bit more about Civic Tech Sweden. Civic Tech Sweden, we created it as a name because we felt no one knows about civic tech in Sweden. It's weird. So we created the name and we started to organize hackathons and meetups with it. So this is a few of the events. And then we started projects with that name as well, because we didn't have any organization carrying the projects, but we wanted to start something. So these are, I think I have it after. These are some of the projects that are in Civic Tech Sweden. So there's a bit of everything. This one is about food saving, for example, and open platforms to coordinate food saving. This one is Hudsgruppen. It's related to sharing economy, whereas this one is more related to how we could build laws together in the parliament so citizens could have a say in the law. So there's a lot of different projects, and anyone can start a new one. And the governance of the organization is really open. The only thing you need to do is go to our chat, some kind of Slack, open source Slack. You can just create an account and then say, hey, I want to do this, or what can I help with? And we just point you to the right GitHub repository or to the right channel, and you can start working on a project with us, or just on your own. Yeah, so this is my poor presentation of Civic Tech and Civic Tech Sweden. What I hope is that we're gonna get a much better overview with the presentations that are coming next. So we're gonna have Annie, who's gonna give us the vision of Vinnova about Civic Tech and tell us a bit more about the money they're coming with. And then we're gonna have Adriana, who is so Adriana, she's a Civic Tech entrepreneur for Germany. And 4 years ago, she was asked, so the German government wanted to do the same as Vinnova today in Sweden, wanted to put money in Civic Tech. And so she was tasked in creating the first Civic Tech fund in Germany. So they have 4 years of history of experience on how to fund sustainable Civic Tech projects. And so she knows a lot about how it's done, and she can tell us about their journeys in Germany. Yes, thank you. I have no idea. Do we have them? Okay, can you? We can connect you. I think. Do you have a HDMI or? Come on. Yeah, no, but it's fine. We have the right adapter. I think. Just give me a sec. Can you put it on there, or it's? I think it's okay. Yeah. I think you had it on the other side, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
What am I doing? Or? Yes. Ah, okay. It's okay. Yeah, I think it's good. Maybe I can.
Great. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna see. Okay, hi everyone. So I'm gonna shortly speak about the Civic Tech Open Call that we have at Vinnova right now. My name is Annie. I work with open innovation and digital services, the program where we try to kind of enhance new types of technologies and areas. And right now we're doing this Civic Tech Open Call, which we have been actually working for, I think, for over a year, trying to look into the area and see what would be the best kind of way that we could support the Civic Tech area. And this call is our first way to try to do that. But very short, what is Vinnova for you guys who don't know? We're a governmental agency. We're under the Enterprise of Innovation, and we are tasked with promoting sustainable growth by funding needs driven in research and development of effective innovation systems. So basically what we do is that we try through our funding get Sweden to be an innovative force in a sustainable world. So through research and innovation projects, we try to make Sweden as competitive as possible within the innovation sphere in the world. And when we talk about sustainability or sustainable growth, we always talk about the SDGs, the Agenda 2030 by the UN. And we do this, I mean, we have some programs that are 100% focused on these goals. For example, Challenge-Driven Innovation Program, UDI, Utmaningsdriven Innovation, and also a program that is called Social Innovation, which you could check out if you're interested. And here we have 2 programs that are totally focused on this. On other programs, we always have the global goals as kind of a indicator and also a criteria which our evaluators go through when they look at applications. We have 3 roles. We're mainly most known for being a funding body, but we're also a contact point when it comes to European funding, and we're also an expert agency when it comes to innovation questions for the government. Some short facts. We finance projects, not companies, so you always apply with a project when you come to Vinnova. That means that you have a specific idea, and it's timed, kind of. It will start this day and it will end this day. So it's a project package that you come with to us, and you are pretty clear about when it would start and when it will end. We give out grants, not loans, and we take no stake or equity in the companies that apply. So it's really a fund, a grant kind of business that we're in, and we also want to be the one who comes in before maybe a company goes and takes in VC capital, etc. So we're in a very early stage of funding, and we want to kind of create opportunities and try out ideas before it becomes profitable. with that said, that is very, I mean, for startups, we are probably the first stage before they do anything else. If you're an innovative startup, they come to us and then they try out their idea and further can go on with their project. If you're a larger company or public sector, you can still apply, of course, to our funding, and then you have projects that are hard to kind of get funding for in your own organization or outside. So we're always very keen that we have a kind of high risk projects. So why Civic Tech then? I will shortly talk about. And bear with me, some of my slides have a little bit bad translation because it is very fast before I left the office today, but I try to do my best. So the whole open call is about using digital technology to strengthen trust between citizen and the public sector. And this is achieved by deepening citizen engagement with the public, opening up the administration, using digital technology as an enabler for the next generation citizen-related services. So that's kind of the theme for the open call, and you have this in Swedish also on our website. And why we really feel within the Civic Tech open call that we want to find new ways of creating public value with the help of digital technology. And we also looking for projects that are pretty kind of cutting edge, that are a bit new, innovative, and also can lead the way and use digital technology as an enabler for creating citizen-related services. And we also want to see this part of the project where it enhances trust between citizens and the public sector, or the public and also a long-term effect of the investment. So it's not only that this project will end when our funding ends. We really want to see that it will kind of continue be something that's around. So trust, the driving force for digitalization, and also strengthen the link between the public and private. Also a new kind of type of services. And also we see that we want to strengthen the civic tech ecosystem in Sweden, which we can see when we're looking internationally is less developed here in Sweden. So that's also one thing we want to kind of boost the ecosystem. So what and for who is this open call for? We welcome project proposals. I already said this actually. I can jump to this. So we want to have at least 2 project partners from different sectors that applies together. And it could be engaged innovators from the public area and cut-edging digital competence. And you can be any legal entity to apply for this open call. And this is pretty special for Vinnova's open calls, because we often have a pretty limited that we say that you cannot be, for example, an NGO, or in this call we'll only look for public sector. But here it's we have been very kind of open to every kinds of combination. The only thing you cannot be is a enskild firma. You cannot apply as an own person. Yes. So we want to see that the project would lead to a prototype in a very late stage. So we don't want to see only pictures or images of how it could be. We really want to see it in a late stage. We also want the project to be able to kind of be demonstrated or shown. We are thinking of having a project event in the end of the program or the program time to kind of show off the projects that have come up during time. And the project time is up to 15 months. And we also want the projects to have a plan of how to share the results, but also the learnings of doing this project. And this, I think, is a very important point in this open call, since the area and ecosystem is, as I said in the beginning, starting to build here in Sweden. So it's a very good thing that we can have use cases to show and learn from. And some activities that you can apply for then, activities of course that deepen citizen involvement. And here you could have collaboration with the citizen as an innovator, a designer, explorer, or a decision maker, etc. Also activities for open government, where it could be, for example, having activities that making it more easy to for citizens to understand a service and how that works, to give citizens more openness and transparency, with how stakeholders in the decision-making positions. Also using public sector data services to be opened for third party. And we encourage that you try to see like kind of what open data or open resources is to be used for the project. And as mentioned in the beginning, or also in a lot of our text and on the website, we talk about using digital technology. We really see that that is an important part of this to bring the technology part into the project. And here it could be, of course, new unexpected applications, but also using already existing digital technology into the project. So how much do we give out in grants? We get out maximum 2 million Swedish crowns per project. And also the maximum grant for each project partner depends on the size and what kind of partner you are. So this is just an example. On our website you can see what do we mean with newly started companies, what do we mean with a small company. But here you have, at least for a newly started company, it's up to 100% that you could apply for funding for your costs. Small companies up to 60, medium-sized up to 50, large companies up to 40, NGO public sector research institutes up to 100. And all the specifications of this we have on the website, and you can also ask us if you have any wondering questions about it. Here's the timeline, and also a pretty new thing for this open call is that we have divided it up to not only having one opening, we will have 3 openings. And we do this because we know that the collaborations could take time. So this is the first opening. We opened the 28th of October and we will close in mid of February. Then we have evaluation, interviews for those who goes past evaluation, and then a decision in the end of March. But then we will actually start again a new project opening in March. No, in February actually. And also a third in May. So we will kind of have this rolling. So you will have the chance to, if you miss the first, you will have a chance to apply for the second or third opening. And the projects could be starting for this first. You could start from 30th March to 3rd April. And on our website, you find all the different kind of information that you need. You can also have it in English. It's not only in Swedish. And shortly, what do we assess? Weird that they came in different parts. Okay, so the 3 ones that we kind of always look at is potential actors, genomförbarhet, implementation, kind of how realistic is it that you can do this project within this consortium, etc. And on the website, you have also kind of the different kinds of attachment that you need to have when you apply. And here you can also find further information about what criteria that we want. And 2 o'clock, 17th February, that's the end of the application. And if you have any further questions, it's me and Adrian who's working mostly with this. And Adrian is also the ones who's responsible for this and also the additional call that we have for supporting function. And we also have IT service if you have any problems with applications. Yeah, do we have time for any questions now, or should I take them later?
I think we have time for some short questions.
Anyone with any questions? Yeah?
Does it matter if you apply for the first or second project, or do you have a specific amount of money for each?
Yeah, great question. So we actually have amount of money for the total kind of 3 rounds. So of course I would not, if you had a good idea, I would definitely recommend you to apply for the first round. If we get, because we will, if we get a lot of great projects, we will try to fund them as much as we can. So I will encourage you, of course, to go for the first one. But if you can't make it, we will at least make sure that we have a kind of a budget for round 2. If it is so many great projects, we will look internally, like how can we do to kind of extend the budget. But for now, this is our thought that we will of course fund the good projects that come in. So that's how we think about it.
Yeah, and you will be here all night?
Not all night, but most of the time.
When do you leave?
I don't know exactly, but you can also contact me whenever you want in email or phone.
Yeah. But you must listen to the ideas of people at least.
Of course, yeah.
And then I think both you
and
Adrian...
But then leaving to the next bar stuff, that was I will not be. No,
no. Actually, I won't either.
Okay, yeah.
So you'll be around, and what we have noticed is that you are really interested in connecting to people and discussing these things. So take the time to talk to you here when you're Annie, when you're here, and listening to the good ideas that we will present.
You had
here.
a question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How will they? What kind of group of people will meet?
Evaluators? Yeah. Okay, so for everything that all the great question. All the open calls that we have, we use external evaluators and internal evaluators. That's kind of how the system works in our organization. These external evaluators, we always kind of try to choose and pick broad expertise, having kind of a balanced group that can cover different kinds of areas. And also, if we see that someone comes in with a very specific technology that they use, or etc., we will try to cover up that with taking in other external evaluators. So it's often a very mixed group of people with expert areas in different fields, and we will always make sure to kind of have a good balance so that your application will have someone that is pretty good at your area. But I'll also give the advice to not think that the person who will read this will understand my field, because it's better to write for someone who would not understand, because that's the best kind of advice I will have, to not think that this person would understand everything in my technical thing. I have had so many applications where they come maybe to an interview, and in the first 10 minutes they answer all the questions that we had from the evaluators, because they haven't written it in their application because it's so clear for them. So don't do that. Try to really be as good as possible to explain your idea. And everyone that is evaluating is going under sekretess. I don't know the English word for that, but they are not allowed to talk about your applications or that they have read them. So it's very like they sign a lease for avtal for that and everything. Sorry?
NDA.
NDA. They sign an NDA. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You.
Are we ready to go? Okay.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? Do you have any cooperation with international civic tech projects, or do you look into what's have been done in other countries?
We try as much as we can to always, of course, keep track on what's happening in other countries. Collaborations, we don't have any like structured collaborations with other countries, but I know Adrian, who's even more involved with the area, is like keeping track on good cases. And on the information meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, I know he had some examples that he went through, some international examples. But we have some international programs also, where SMEs and startups can apply together with other international partners. So we're trying to enhance that too.
Yep.
And if you want to hear this kind of pitch in a longer way, you can also look at the information meeting, which is like 1 hour long on our website.
Yes. But what Pierre showed is this is very much a global or European community as well, but they can't get funding. But I guess that there are, if we have cooperations with other organizations, it could be a good thing, because it's this civic tech is more like an ecosystem.
Yes.
In the open source community, open data community. So I guess that a lot of things have already been done, and one project can only be maybe to attach it to a Swedish context and make it work with all the.
Definitely, you can apply with something that is similar to something that you know is existing international, because if it's new to the Swedish market, it is somehow, innovative. Also, if you want to have a partner, international partner in your project, that is okay. You can have an international partner, but they cannot get any of the funding. If they don't have a Swedish subsidiary here in Sweden, then they can get some funding. So that's how you can think about that.
So when you mention the different sectors, you write public sector and you write academy apart. So the university counted in academy?
Good question. Universities is academia. So yeah, so that's a different part. Yeah, and research institutes also.
Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, is she there? She's connected. Yeah, great.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes.
So I think I'm gonna. Yes, he's here. And what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this one here. Unable to access the camera. No. Can you? Did we remove the sound or? Can you hear me, Adriana? I can have both, right? This would be great when we can have this, and then Adriana is having connectivity issues, so it's on her side, I think, for now. Can try just with sound if it doesn't work. See me? I think she's coming as a third person.
It's a third person there.
Well, she's logging in from two different sides. Adri and Adri. Yes? Almost? Yeah, she's having internet problems, I think.
So, should we just make a short round? Who's here? The ones of you who shall present, you will have a lot more time. But it's very interesting in meetups to actually know who you are. Could we start a little bit here when Pierre is trying to connect to Germany here?
Sure. My name is Sthlm. Just started a new company within communications and markets with the aim of
Do we record it out? Do we want it afterwards, Pierre?
Sure, always
Yeah.
use a mic so you can be
okay.
immortal.
So, thank you. Thank you for that. So,
Oh, wow.
Finally.
Sorry, you're immortal.
Det var
but
pausunderhållning.
Hello.
okay, Adriana, do we have you? Okay, that's great.
I'm happy with that.
I can see you.
So you're gonna, yeah, we have quite a few people.
Hi.
Okay, and I have your presentation above you, so whenever you want, you can start.
So I can't hear you now. Should I just start?
Sorry.
Is the
wait,
quality all right?
Wait, yeah, so sorry, I muted. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, no echo, no anything?
No echo. A little.
Okay. I'll mute if you want. Do you want me to mute or?
I think it's better.
Okay. So I mute now and you can start.
Okay.
And then I'll reopen when we take questions.
in the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Should I always say next slide?
Oops, sorry.
So
Sorry, we missed this one. Or
should I always tell you next slide so you know when to do it?
I didn't get it. Ah, yeah, sorry. Yeah, you can say next whenever, and I will change slide. Just say next.
maybe-
Yes.
Should we try without the video for better quality?
We can try without a video. Yeah. Let's
You
remove.
just
Okay.
give me a thumbs up then. That doesn't work. Can't see me. Okay. Anyway.
I'll turn. Well, let's try. Let's.
Okay. So now I can't see and I can't hear you, which is an interesting experience. But let's try and do this. So, hi, it was nice seeing you briefly, you all. I'm Adriana. I'm the director of the Prototype Fund in Berlin, Germany. I actually went home to do this because the internet quality in the office is really bad, but apparently it's also really bad back home. Anyhow, let's try and see how it goes. I want to tell you a little bit about what is the Prototype Fund, what kinds of projects have we funded so far, why are we doing this, and why you should do this too. Okay, so on to the next slide. This is the intro, the key learnings, and the facts and figures of the prototype fund. The facts and figures are really dry, so I might skip them, and so we have more time for a conversation. So we are on slide 3, just so that we're all on the same page, literally. Prototype fund is something that was kind of radical for the German funding system. It's not something that the German government usually does. In fact, it wasn't even legal to hand out public money to hackers, designers, other creative people before the prototype fund in the way that we are doing it now. We kind of hacked the German funding system in a way that with the prototype fund, we made it possible that you as an individual can receive public funding. Usually public funding goes to the big guys, universities, think tanks, companies, and so on. On the side of the German government, they understood that handing out public money in this way isn't really stimulating innovation, because those big companies and universities, they do amazing work, and also universities do the groundwork for innovation often with the research they do, but nevertheless, it's actually proven that bigger institutions cannot be as innovative as single persons or like smaller groups of people, just because you need a lot of freedom and you need the room for making mistakes and starting over new. And usually that is not really an option in those big companies and institutions. So the German government knew this, so they knew they had to hand out public money in a different way. And that's when we came and we said, you know, we have this community in Germany that is doing amazing stuff with open data and with their goal to improve things for the public. So that's what civic hackers do. They try to fix everyday problems you have with transportation, or with communicating to your local government, or with finding the right spot in a kindergarten. Those kind of problems you often can not completely solve, but you can like make them less terrible when you use data and well-designed software. And that was our starting point. So that's how the German government, to be precise, is the Federal Ministry for Education and Research, and us, the Prototype Fund, met. And we are now a research and a funding program at the same time. So we research how to hand out money in a way that it really like helps people and that it's like stimulating innovation. But we also just giving out money to people. To be precise, 50,000 euro for each project for 6 months of software sprints. You can apply twice a year for the Prototype Fund, and you don't have to pay anything back, no matter how your project ends. Because you know, you're doing something new, it's innovation. You don't know how it's going to end. You can tell us, this is my plan, this is what I'm thinking about, this is what I want to do, but it's no strings attached. Just do it, and yeah, and that's the whole point. That's how great new things start. Just do it. So we handed out about 5 million euros in total so far since 2016 for 118 projects, and we are going to run for another year at least, maybe even longer. So it's going to be 8 million euro in total that we support the hacker system, civic tech system in Germany with. So the logic that we have, that's on slide 4, is it's public money, so it's going to be public code, and it's for the public good. There are very little requirements for you to apply. You just need to explain your idea and who you're doing it for, and how you want to do it, of course, from a technical perspective. But besides that, you only need to be over 18 and live in Germany. You don't need to be a German national. You just need to be registered in Germany, because the government isn't allowed to pay taxpayers' money outside of Germany to somebody. And you need to code open source. That's the only hard requirement. And that's the logic, what I mean with it's public money, so it needs to be public code. and it needs to be beneficiary to the general public or to a very specific target group that you want to help with a problem. And also because it's open source, that's one of the reasons why we are so easy with handing out money. Because even if your project fails, even if your conclusion after 6 months is, you know what, this wasn't a good idea, actually. I thought it is, but now that I tested it, I think it's a terrible idea. It doesn't really matter because the open source code is still somewhere available for everybody, maybe on GitHub. And other people who think about different or similar ideas, I mean, they can look up what you've done and they can maybe come up with something better. Maybe they see that you just had turned left on that way and not turned right, and then something great comes out of it. The idea is to provide general knowledge to a wider audience so that more people can become active and creative and come up with great ideas. On the next slide, slide 5, I told you that already. It's a little outdated, I'm sorry. Just seeing that now. So we had 118 projects and 5 million euro right now. And the maximal funding per project is like almost 50,000 euro. So this is basically how we work. This is basically what the prototype fund does. And we focus on 4 tech groups that we target the most and that we want to support the most with the money we have. And that's first and foremost Civic Tech. So now you see my nice GIFs because I hope that you have better internet connection that I do, and I hope they're running. Great, I see a thumbs up. So Civic Tech. Civic Tech is basically what I've said already. It's storytelling, it's data visualization, it's providing more knowledge, it's platforms and apps that help people to communicate in a better way between each other or with their elected officials. It's about transparency, civic engagement, participation, just everything that me and you as a citizen would really appreciate. And I know everybody has different problems, so that's why it's great when lots of people start to just sit down together and have a coder, have a designer, have somebody with like the background knowledge and then just prototype. And sometimes you see that then local governments even pick up ideas that have been developed and implement them in what they provide as services to the citizens. So that's what we mostly do, Civic Tech, but we also do, next slide, data security, because it's a really important part of everything that we do online. I don't think I have to explain this, but we also support projects that work on security issues. Then on the next slide, we also focus on data literacy, because all this nice open data isn't worth much if you don't provide it in a way that people can actually understand it. If only experts understand what the data tells you, then it's not really doing what it making them creative in trying out new things. And last but not least, because this is also really important, next slide, is software infrastructure. Because all those nice apps and platforms, they don't help much if the infrastructure everything's running on isn't free, isn't secure, isn't accessible. So we also do the really, really nerdy projects that I'm not going to tell you about now, because to be quite frank, I don't understand all of them. They're really really impressive. But often they don't get as much attention as the others because, of course, Civic Tech tools are way more fun. So to make this a little more precise, next slide, you see a couple of examples of projects that we've funded so far. So the first one is called Pretix. It's an alternative ticket, online ticket store where you can host your own events and sell tickets or just distribute tickets, which is really like having a focus on not grabbing all your data and making it really secure. The next one is called SignDict, which is a beautiful example for a Civic Tech project. What they basically did is building a wiki for deaf people I didn't notice, but there are lots of different accents between, for example, in Germany, people from the south and people from the north, they have different words, like different signs for different words. And often people have no way how to learn those different signs. And they just build one up. You can use your front camera, you type down which word this is, and then you make the sign, you save it, and then everyone can look up, okay, what does pizza mean in Bavaria? Or what does pizza mean in Hamburg? Which sign do they use? This is really important if you want to order a pizza and you're from Hamburg and you're going to go to Bavaria. I mean, you know, stuff like that. It's really basic, but for some people, a really specific group, this might actually be a real improvement. But next slide, we also have projects that are way bigger than like a nice sign wiki. For example, the Syrian archive. The Syrian archive identified one problem in the Syrian war, which is lots of people that are in Syria make videos of bombings, of attacks, of whatever is happening there. But of course, they don't have enough storage on their phones. So what they do is to upload it to YouTube. But then, of course, YouTube deletes those videos because you see war crimes in the worst case, or at least violent material. And they deleted it. YouTube deleted most of it. The Syrian archive then first built an internet archive to store all those videos. It's 40 or 50,000 by now. And then they had another problem, which is, so who's going to look at all those videos? Because you don't have enough people to look at them. And even if you would have enough people, you cannot let people watch all those violent videos because they're going to be traumatized after that. So they built a software, actually a machine learning software, that is now able to identify weapons, landmarks, vehicles, any kind of thing in this video that is making it really like secure that this is a real video, that what you see is real, and it makes it easy to see, is this an illegal weapon system? Where is it coming from? Where was it built? So in the future, this software might help to go to a human rights court and see if there's somebody you can take in front of it. And that's quite impressive. I think that's one of the most impressive projects we've funded so far. And then something more local and more accessible is on the next slide, just a system for your neighborhood to share those bikes that you can do transportation with. I don't know if there's a specific word in English, actually, a transport bike maybe, so that people that don't want to use a car anymore, but still need to carry heavy stuff from the supermarket to their home or whatever, they can just share those bikes and they don't have to buy one for themselves because they're usually pretty expensive, at least in Germany. And this is, I think, a very current topic with more and more people trying to use less cars and more bikes and be more environmentally friendly. So this is something, you know, really down to earth, but really helpful. Before I go into a little bit about what we found out so far, what are our key learnings, all those projects that I just presented are really different. And of course, they also have a really different logic behind them. Some of them have a business model like Pretix. Pretix is an open source software as well. So you can just go to Pretix and download the ticket store to your server and then run it yourself. But if you don't want to do this because you don't have the time or the skills, then you can pay Pretix to run it for you. So it's a software as a service solution, because of course, selling open source software doesn't make much sense, but you can nevertheless have a business model. That's what Pretix does. Others are totally run, maintained, and made sustainable by a community, like this transportation bike. This is also a way to become a sustainable project. You can have a community that commits and that supports and that makes you, lets you run without having any kind of like money business model involved. And then another solution or another way to become sustainable is to integrate your project in a bigger setting. Like Signdict, this sign wiki, that could be picked up by a charity organization or by a local government body that just wants to be more accessible. You know, you have those rules as, especially as like a government website, that you need to be accessible to everybody in society. So this is also a way how your project can become sustainable, that it's just picked up by a bigger entity and then maintained. And all those 3 different ways, I'm sure there are more, but those are the 3 main ones that we focus on so far, are for us a good enough reason to make your project sustainable. You don't have to have a business model, but you have to have then a community or the option that somebody else picks you up. So this was a quick-ish run through what the Prototype Fund does. If we briefly look at slide 14 is our philosophy. It's the trial and error. I mentioned that in the beginning. You know, it's testing and starting again, and the key learnings are kind of all attached to this logic. We're now it's slide 15. And then 16, also mentioned this before. It's easy money, easy access. The way how it's possible for the people that we want to fund to receive the money is because we hacked the German funding system. So usually when you apply for public money, you need to fill out lots of paperwork. And that stopped with the Prototype Fund, but just for us, unfortunately, you still have to do that for any other funding program in Germany. But with the Prototype Fund, you only have to fill in an online questionnaire of 8 questions, and that's it. And then you send it to us, we have a look at it, our jury committee decides who gets the funding, and only when you are a finalist, so to say, you have already been selected, only then you come meet us in Berlin for a workshop, a half-day workshop with officials from the government who sit down with you and go through the paperwork. And that is brilliant. I can say that because it wasn't my idea. It was somebody else's idea to do it that way. But it's brilliant because it reduces the workload for both sides. It reduces the workload for the people who want to apply for funding. In fact, it makes it possible only because of that to apply, because they wouldn't be able to do the paperwork. But it also reduces the workload for the government, because now they don't have to look through 250 applications that are quite baddish, some of them. They only look through 25, which are already selected as a good idea. So this is how we make this a lot easier and a lot more accessible. And then, as I said, you just get the money. You don't have to pay back only in case you totally try to trick us and don't do anything and don't write any code and try to run away. But that never happened before. We don't check in all the time. We kind of trust people that they do what they said they want to do, because, you know, it's not that much money in the end that somebody's going to make a big thing out of it. And that's basically it. And it works like a charm. It works way better than all those check-in mechanisms and all those really big paperwork you have to do. And it attracts people that are really want to do innovative stuff, and not people that just are professionals in applying for public funding. I have to take a sip of water, just one sec. So this is also coming to an end. On the next slide, you need the right kind of philosophy. This means we want an open culture of failure. As soon as something doesn't work, share. Don't only share your success stories, because nobody learns from success stories. Success is really individual. Failure isn't that individual. We often tend to fail because of the same reasons in similar circumstances. Success is often, you were at the right time, at the right point, and did the right thing, but this is really difficult to learn from. It's not that difficult to learn from. Don't wait with coaching until the very end of your project. do it on day one. Do it when you think it's too early. Just do it because it will help you. The sooner the better. And don't wait talking to your to your user group, because those are the people you want to learn from. So involve them from day one as well. And lots of projects don't do this because, you never have time for this. You want to code, you want to make progress, but it's really important to step back and just share and collect feedback and then start over again. This is one of the most important learnings I think every project has in the 6 months that we fund them. Also, tremendously important is diversity is value. We see that projects that work in groups often have way more success than just one person that is a coder. The best combination is a coder and a designer and somebody from a totally different field. And just try to incorporate as many diverse views and values and backgrounds in your project as possible. It's just going to make you better. And then last but not least, especially if you do civic tech projects, your community is your core. So you need to look for allies. You need to look how you can involve people. And you need to share in the open source spirit. So just always be open for feedback, be open for criticism, and don't go to your desk and just do your project and then come back when you're finished, but do it out in the open the whole time. This is, I think, especially for civic tech projects, this is really important. So because my voice is kind of failing and I've been talking for a good 20 minutes, I think I would stop here now. And I hope you have lots of questions and critical feedback, as we've been talking about philosophy. Please tell me what you don't understand or what doesn't make sense to you. And I hope it was interesting for you. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you very much. We have a gathering here, so everyone need to have some time as to talk to each other as well. So we will have a short time for questions, of course. Yeah. So since we have you on board, do you hear us? Yeah. So anyone wants to put a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your nice presentation. I have two questions, and one is a little bit general question about the age group of the people who took up the project. You said it was open for people of age group over 18. So I want to know what is the age group of the people who have started the project. As there are a lot of projects, I want to know that. That is one of my general question. And the other question is, I want to know, as there are a lot of projects, you mentioned more than thousands, how do you manage the ongoing process? How do you communicate on that level with each of the person, if you do, so that we can also learn from that to manage our civic tech community in Sweden that we are trying to build? Thank you. Was that clear?
Yeah, you need to mute it again, please. Thank you. I'm not 100% sure if I got the question right, so please interrupt. Like, just do like this when I'm heading in the wrong direction.
Sure. Yeah.
So the age group of the people that we fund, you mean? Like, what is the average age? People are older than we expected, so that they are between 35 and maybe 45. So lots of people in like mid-age. We thought maybe a little bit more people that are not like from university or just out of university. But because we are funding innovation, we have experienced people because they know usually better what has been done before, and their ideas are a little more amplified. So yeah, most of them are between 35 and 45, and you only have to be over 18 because yeah, you need to be a legal person, and so you cannot be under the age of 18 in Germany. That's the only reason. And the second question, we try different things to set up a community and to stay in contact and to communicate. We used to use Slack, but then we stopped because Slack is not open source, and actually there's lots of criticism about Slack. So we started to use an open source tool instead. So we have channels on a platform that's called Rocket, and that's how we communicate. We have meetups, and we're probably going to have like a bigger summit next year, and emails, and that's it. So it's not that easy to stay in contact with all of those projects, to be honest, especially because some of those projects already had communities before they joined the prototype fund. So it's, you know, people have limited time to be in another community.
Yes, more questions to Adriana?
Yes. Next question. We use Rocket Chat in Sweden as well. Next question. Time for two more, I think. Anyone? Yes. Sorry, I'm gonna. Can you hear me? Yeah. My question was, do you have any projects that are that got exported to other countries where you started the project? The project was started in Germany, and then some other civic tech communities in other countries took it over. Regarding, it could be the code or the idea, or.
Well, we actually have projects that are international from the very beginning. So we are funding a project that's called Reproducible Builds. It's one of the infrastructure projects, and they are international. Another project that we fund that's international is Secure Drop. It's a whistleblower platform that is used by the New York Times and so on. So we fund them as well with one person in Germany. Others that might be picked up somewhere else are, there's a maritime rescue system, which is using, they just improved how rescue ships in the maritime sea can coordinate each other. So so they can just do a better job in rescuing people, basically. So of course that is used outside of Germany because we're not near the maritime sea. And then there's Luftdateninfo, which is a project that is collecting sensor data for air quality that is kind of like spreading. And then there's Eurospend, which is analyzing how funds from the European Union are spent across Europe. So this is also something that is used outside of Germany. I think it's a pretty fair share of programs and projects that are, you know, that are just developed in Germany, because in Germany, I think I was frozen. But the scope is way over Germany.
Yes. Yeah, maybe we can say, Adriana, we have people here very engaged in the Luftdata in Sweden here.
We could hear. I mean, Secure Drop is also a name I never knew that it came from Germany.
Yeah.
So a lot of names. And one last question, if you have. Otherwise, we can move on to Peaches. Shy audience tonight. Okay, well, thanks a lot, Adriana. It was really great. I'll talk to you later. And I think we'll be in touch over this funding, because, I think if we can continue to get inspiration from you, well, we definitely do it. Thanks a lot.
Yes, we give it an applause, I think. Yeah. So I see the enjoyment here in Sweden. Bye.
Thank you for listening, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in Sweden next. So, good luck.
Great. doing on your laptop, right? Okay.
We'll see. We can switch if someone wants to present anything, something. What do we want to say anything about the food or something? Yeah. Can we take it now, or how is the plan for the food here?
I think it's we said after.
Yeah. Okay.
I can open the pizza, so when some people pitch, then you can go when some people pitch. But please listen to people. It's more important.
Okay.
Depends on how you
So as you see, it's kind of do it yourself along the way here.
hacking tips.
So, but the thing is, you have about 5 minutes each, and I would like everyone here just to say something why you're here, but you don't have to pitch if you don't want. But it's very interesting to see all the people that actually come here. But the ones who wants to pitch, you can take over the computer or the screen at least, or you can just talk. But I think it's good that you present your civic tech ideas, your name, if organization, if you have one, and the ID, and if you have any special interest. Do you have an idea you want help with, or do you want to help someone else with the idea, or something else? So I think we can start going on that. And you you had your moment before, but now you will take it over again. Do you have something you want to present here?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Perfect. Yeah. Cool. So, hi everybody, I'm Pelle Asplund. I'm currently working on a new communication agency, and we call Public Insight. The idea behind that is to lowering the threshold for companies that wants to sell or market themselves to the public sector. But we also have like a fundamental interest in society and to develop these ideas. And we also found that to be able to sell the public sector to private companies, we need to make it a bit better, kind of, yeah, make it more attractive. So I'm going to jump a bit in your order of things here. So I'm just going to do the presentation. This is what we want to achieve and what we want to do. So we found that something is wrong, and the we here is Etablera, which is Eric and Oscar from Hack from Sweden, the young guys, the talented guys, the stars. Then we have Fredrik Tam from Double Check, which is like senior advisor, have a lot of experience and a lot of contacts, and me, which I'm kind of in between them, kind of like that. So what we think is wrong is that we need to change how businesses interact with the public market. The need for that is growing. We can see a recruitment problem for the public sector. We can see that the number of bids on each contract are decreasing. Or deceasing. There are little or no competition on these public contracts. And we see a need for innovation and entrepreneurial skills in the public sector. We see it as huge. The thresholds are very high to get in, and when you do, you often haven't adjusted your offer to the public sector. So you either over-deliver and feel that you're not getting paid for what you do, or under-deliver and you get kicked out. So we thought, and we think that we could create a solution where the public market can actually target their selected companies with offers. So it's just not a one-way communication. We can also see that there is a lot of, or a few large players, I won't mention them by name, but you all know them, that sits on these information about the contracts. And maybe we can do something there. We could disrupt this market. So, we want to enhance transparency, eliminate corruption, enable disruption, and we love tech. So, we think that we could, with an algorithm, connect the databases on Skatteverket, the SNE codes databases, with the European Union CPV codes. And we can make this open source, so it's available for everybody that wants to maybe enhance their algorithm or need the algorithm to make a business idea. And then, after that, we can build these databases that could contain a lot of data from other public sectors and make it available as an API. So that's it.
Good. The time was clocking in right now as well, so very good. Any very short questions about this? You be around? I know that there are other ideas about public offerings that maybe could combine that we will talk about later on. So, but very interesting. Yes, Fuad from Föreningen Grävande Journalister, an old colleague of me from SVT when I was there. So very glad to have you here. And Aris is also from FKG, and you are the big investigative reporting organization in Sweden, and it will be very interesting to hear what you have to say.
All right. Good to be here. It's not that often that I get to talk with other people.
Not journalists, you mean?
Well, you know, when I talk to other people, it's only, you know, calling them and them saying to me that they don't want to talk to me. That's the life I'm living. But so I'm very glad to be here with you guys. I'm going to talk about a small idea that's not especially complicated, I think, but would empower both journalists and the public to enforce the great transparency that I believe that we already have in Sweden. Because we are somewhat world champions when it comes to transparency. Our transparency laws are great. I was in the Netherlands last week, and an hour before my lecture, I emailed the Swedish government and asked for the emails of our prime minister. And I could actually show them the emails a few hours later during the session. And of course, they were very mad at me in the Netherlands and hoped that they had the same systems. So we do have transparency. But in order for that transparency to work, we need both journalists and the public to know the rights, to know how to perform investigative journalism, to know how to, you know, ask for the right type of documents, ask the right type of government agency or entity. And I don't think that we have that today. We do have some small open source project that have made some great things with bringing transparency into both the public tender system, but also Christopher, with your project with the public documents that are available. We do have some small things there, but we still have big problems with spreading this knowledge to the Swedish public and to journalists across Sweden. This is an example. This does not look like much, but this is actually the template that the Swedish show Uppdrag Granskning uses when they start a project. This is their template. I just added my logo on the top and stole their stuff. This is fantastic for a lot of different media outlets to have, for a lot of other journalists to have, to be able to know, to go through this and use this whenever they want to start an investigative idea, for example. But however, this document belongs to Uppdrag Granskning. It is theirs, and they are the only one who have it. I was working there, so that's why I have it before. And so we need a way of spreading also these kinds of documents, a way of spreading the knowledge on how to do great investigative journalism to more people. Because the problem today is that journalism is under attack. And for me, who believe that journalism is essential to our society, this is getting quite tough, honestly. As I told you, as soon as I call someone, most of them don't want to talk to me, and that's a reality. And so I believe that if we empower journalists all across Sweden, they will be getting better at promoting investigative journalism and doing great investigative journalism, avoiding these kinds of things like exaggerating stuff, because nobody likes to read about stuff that is exaggerated. And so what we want to do is to create the investigative wiki, a place where we can share everything from that document I showed you to how we should ask government agencies for documents, to tips on how to interview in a good way, a place where we can, bring all of those great stuff that Christopher and other people has already done before, bring them into the same place, because now they're shattered all over the place. And even though I'm interested, I still don't know really how to find the website that you guys have been working with.
No.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah. I really believe that this could really empower both investigative journalism and then also the public. So that's my small presentation. Thanks.
Yeah. Very small question for me. Do you see this as a tool for ordinary citizens, or is it for local journalists, or for students, or what's the target group for this?
Well, actually both. So our organization, Investigative Reporters in Sweden, we are a non-profit, and we do stuff for our members, first of all. But I think that this is something that could be open to everybody. I got an email. I got actually an email yesterday from someone who wrote a blog post that I wrote 5 years ago, and he asked me, "Oh yeah, so I want to do this. How should I do that?"
Yeah.
So obviously, this is something for the general public as well.
Yeah, great. Any questions? No. You will be going by train, I guess, but Aris will be here, so talk to Aris if you want. And I must say that there are similar ideas that I think we could connect with the things, and we have discussed some things before. So it's great to have you as a partner here. I think we could do great stuff together.
I just want to say something fast. It's not a question, but I think it's a good idea, because I want to referera to Motala-skandalen, where the corruption, it was open, but no one could see it before they knew how to see it. So the journalist, which you probably know, she wouldn't seen it. It was an accident that she came to this event, and corruption was later.
Yeah, I do agree, and that's one of the points also that I'm making, because we have a yearly conference, a Gräv seminar, which we have 600 to 800 journalists all over from Sweden coming there and listening to great sessions. And we do have tip sheets after those sessions on how we should do stuff, including how we should uncover corruption in the public. And I believe that those documents and those tips could be more public than they are today.
I agree. There are things to do on the inside when you release things as well. Oh, now we're going here. Okay, who's next?
Because my colleague couldn't be here, and she was supposed to present the other one. So, but I'm going to try to be quicker. I'm very happy that you took pictures of the public code, public money. I think that's something from Vinnova. I think we can all agree on that. Okay, so basically I'm Robin Harms Oredsson. I'm from an organization called Beta House. It started in Germany and Stockholm with about 11 years ago with the intent of basically trying to fix that we saw that representation was starting to break down as a concept in democracy. So we said, okay, but we already have research on this since like 100 years back. Why don't we try to build the tools that support the research instead? So we've been doing that for about 11 years. And we're funded by other organizations or grants or Vinnova actually, or the Inheritance Fund, which is a lot of things. If you have something public, that's a good idea. And I have two projects here today. The first one is for anyone who heard of Votit, for Luftdata, for instance. It's not really a shocker. It's a system that we started doing with an organization called Sverige about 9 years ago. That's basically the idea of taking the regular General Assembly and putting it online and see if we can get something else out of it. Do we have another system for making decisions and how to get other people engaged in the decision-making process? That has morphed many times from now on. It's used in physical processes as well now. It's used by hundreds of organizations in Sweden. We have about 20,000 users or something like that, I would guess. And 26 member organizations who support the projects. It's an NGO. But the web is changing a lot. And the third iteration of this project was still in like the old web, before WebSockets, before anything like that. And now we expect something else. But also, there are other things that have changed in how we interact with each other in the decision-making process that we're kind of missing in the public sector. We're trying to have discussions online and then we go to meetings and make decisions. That's really stupid because we're really bad at having discussions online. It doesn't work very well. I think we can all agree on that by now. Whereas decision-making is really, really bad in the physical arena because we need computers to make good decisions and to calculate what people really want. So maybe we should swap those two instead. And that's actually starting to happen. But the project to test out that and how we do something like that, that's an immense project that basically all of the organization in this cluster want to embark on. And that's something that we could maybe look to Vinnova for in this. Okay, end of project number 1, and you're welcome to join. We're of course, the idea is to of course ship out small parts also as open source components. So we can, we have several developers in our group as well, so we can, that work full time with this. So we'll be able to write open source libraries as we go and release them. The other project actually stems from a similar thing to what you have been talking about already. And that was basically a meeting several years ago with a member of a commune in Sweden that said, how do you get journalists to look at economic data in communes? What do you mean? We have rampant corruption, but nobody wants to look at it. Of course, journalists do that all the time. No, they don't. They only look at the government level. They don't look at the local, regional level. And basically, what we've seen is that when we make decisions in the local governments, they hold a press conference, say, we're going to do this, we're going to give more money to schools, way! And you get a press conference, and you have some press, and you have a reprint in the next newspaper, and so on. But what's actually happening is most parts of Sweden actually take money from schools, for instance, and then they just put back a small amount that's actually smaller than the money that they got from the beginning. And nobody really has the time to go through and check on that budget what's actually going on, except, for instance, 2 teachers that some of you may have heard of that are reading all of the budgets in, in all of the communal institutions right now and going through them. But it's really a generic problem in decision making, whether you are an NGO or whether you are like a local government, that we don't really have a clue how the decisions we make are actually implemented in the end. So what if we could take the knowledge from the open source community on how we handle issues, how we track tasks to people, milestones, releases, all of that stuff, and bring it to the public sector instead? So we can track what we did at that General Assembly or after the election or whatever, and simply see, okay, so who is assigned to this, where does this go, what has led to this, where did this money go that we assigned, and so on. That would be a really interesting. And the funny thing is that a large group of the organizations involved in Vote It, they've basically realized that while Vote It might solve some of the problems up to the decision making, it doesn't solve any of the problems from implementing the decisions. So what if we could look at that together in that group? And I think there are more of you that might be interested in that. And we actually have a few already political parties on board with this as well, which would be an interesting way to cooperate. So this is an open invitation to any of you who want to join this as well. Thanks.
Just to follow up, so I understand. What the last thing you talked about? Do you want to go to the local journalists and help them, or do you have a more citizen journalist perspective? So actually, you can have like a local community.
Nope. None of them actually. It's basically for an organization. So when you have done your decision-making progress, you're going to implement those decisions over a year until the next General Assembly, and there's really no really good way to track what you're actually doing from the point where you have done the decisions. Levande verksamhetsplan would be the word in Swedish. But you could also look at it for a communal level, for instance, like what's going on in my local area. We made a lot of decisions in this, blah, 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 but what's actually being implemented? You follow?
Yep, I think so. As knowing about local journalism, I think that lots of local journalists want to really do a great job, but they don't have the time to do it, and that's the big problem. But if we can engage a more citizen perspective in this, I think it's a great idea, and that could be a good way forward. And I think the line between what journalists do and what the local community could do is really interesting to gap. So, thanks.
Any other questions? I'll be around. Yeah.
Anyone wants to present? I think we have more in the Civic Tech. At least, how many do you have, Pierre? You have 2 at least, and I have 1. So, yeah. But we'll let the other ones talk first. We have talked a lot already.
So my presentation is actually in Swedish, or the PowerPoint, not the first picture, but there are some pictures that can illustrate, visualize my idea. So yeah, okay. So first of all, I want to say that I'm not presenting a idea or a solution, but a problem that is connected to Civic Tech. So I am, or we are, maybe somewhere here and not really there yet. So who are we? We are one of the big companies, as Adriana called us. I come from the University of Linköping, and I work at the Department of Political Science. And I work in a research group that focuses on digitalization and how digitalization affects the public sector and the medborgare, the citizens, and the connection between their, how it affects people's chances to participate in the democracy. So, a bit of background for the problem that I want to present. Right now we have a research project going on in Skäggetorp that is in Linköping, and it is framed
by the police as one of the especially vulnerable areas, särskilt utsatta områden. And what we do here is that we do a similar thing as Internetstiftelsen is doing. We want to see how digitalized this area is and see if there's a connection between digital exclusion and exclusion in society in general. And we have found out that we think that digitalization is a good thing. However, digitalization often is done from the perspective of the public sector, the institutions and the organization, and not from the perspective of the citizens and their needs and their förutsättningar, prerequisites, something like that. Yeah. And especially in vulnerable areas where citizens that live there may not maybe speak or read the Swedish language as good as in other areas. So the digitalization and e-tjänsterna that the public sector is opening, that is meant to ease citizens' chance to participate in society, is actually sometimes, maybe even many times in this area, doing the opposite thing. It is actually creating more exclusion instead of inclusion. So, and this is the problem. So we have some loose, and yeah, I want to state that this is not something that we just like frame, or this is actually stated very often by the citizens in this area and by the local organization that work in these areas. So this local organization that we talk to very much and that we work together, they work as a bridge right now between the public sector and the citizens. So they help the citizens to fill out the digital blankets and to communicate with Arbetsförmedlingen, Migrationsverket, Försäkringskassan, and so on. However, both the organizations and the citizens say that more is needed, and especially because we may assume that in the future there will be more digitalization and not less, and so something has to be done. So, why am I here? Well, firstly, because I want to see if you think that this is something that is connected to Civic Tech, and secondly, because, well, I want to be a bit inspirerad, and thirdly, yeah, if there's someone that may have ideas on how to continue with this or want to partner up with us, we welcome it. Yeah, I think that is it. And yeah, we have a great network in Skäggetorp that wants to do this. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions? So you don't just want to be a gap minder, you want to be a gap bridge, really, and you want to find the solutions for doing that.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, because the paradox here is that, okay, so the problem comes from digitalization, and now I want to solve it with digitalization. Or you could frame it that the problem comes from digitalization that is not done from the perspective of the citizens, and we want to do it from the perspectives of the citizens.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Hello. Yeah. 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 Thank. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. We keep in touch. Who's next? You take first. I take the last one if we have time. Take the mic.
Hey.
We not the presenters.
Good try. Okay, actually this presentation is in English, but the title is in Swedish, so you yeah, so we're gonna talk about procurement, which is probably the most boring topic of this evening, but I think it's, sorry. We're gonna try to make it interesting. So one interesting thing about procurement, yeah, I'm gonna give you a few facts. The first fact is just the amount of money. So you know Sweden is a good welfare state, and as a big welfare state, a rich country, it spends a huge amount of money in public spending every year, and that's 700 billion crowns per year just on buying to private companies, so what's called procurement. The second fact is, and where you can boo because it's really shameful, is that Sweden is the only EU country, and actually the only developed country apart from the United States that I know, that doesn't publish open procurement data, that doesn't even own its own data. So you have Upphandlingsmyndigheten, which is the only Upphandlingsmyndighet in developed country, I think, who doesn't own any data. We can talk about it for hours, it's a shame, but I put this small presentation together. It's actually research from Cambridge University, so you don't have to trust me, I can send you the link. Sweden is the only country in this Cambridge research where it scores 0 on every line.
But the lakes in the middle doesn't seem to be right.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so we started that project out of that really shocking fact that it's crazy. I mean, how can Sweden be framed as a champion in transparency and be that far far late in this, and it doesn't seem to improve. I mean, they don't want to open that database, and they don't want to open data about procurement. So we created this project, and we set these 4 goals. The first one, we saw these 4 needs, let's say. The first one is, of course, to investigate corruption, because when you spend 700 billion kroners, there's probably some of it is spent ineffectively, or is actually pure conflict of interest, or or corruption. The second one is that you can actually know a lot about your spending when you're a municipality, and you have your own data. You own your own data. You can actually know a lot about your behavior and how well you're doing as a public service to your citizens. The third one is that it can help greatly you as a municipality, but also you as a company who wants to sell to the government. If you have data about what was bought and sold before, you can draw great insight to optimize this procurement and to make it more efficient. And the fourth one is also to enable research on important political issues. I think it's crazy that in Sweden we have debates all the time about vinst till välfärd, about like profits in the welfare system, about privatization of the school system, and usually when people talk about it in parliament, they don't have any data. I mean, they talk, it's really an ideological question. It's like, you're right wing, you're going to be against, you're left wing, you're going to be for, but no one actually talks with any data as a ground. So that's how we started this project. And yeah, so the results in any case is that if you have more effective procurement, you save tax money, and you also increase the trust from citizens in the government, because that's the main deliverable that people want, is good public services at the lowest cost possible. Yeah, so I thought I would show you a few international examples, because often when I talk about this to people, even to experts in the government, they have no idea that Sweden is actually unique in that case. So I would show you some of the great examples, not the mediocre one, but the best ones. The first one that I like is Ukraine, which is a country which has a lot of corruption. And after the revolution in 2013, they decided, so that was Transparency International Ukraine, who created this open source platform that's called Prozoro, where basically they open open all the data in procurement with the new government, and they just created, it's a BI platform. It's standard in the market. It's called Click. It's open source. It's used a lot in any company that wants to do business intelligence, and they just put this BI platform on top of the data, and basically journalists use it to fight corruption, but also the government use it to fight insight. So you can see all of these views if you want to see some indicators that are more interesting to you, or you can create your own dashboards with any indicators, and it's real time. So anytime the government buys something more, the numbers of actualize, and the whole project is open source. Another example, I think, is Finland, which is usually a good way to convince Sweden to do something, is to tell you that the Finns are doing it. So Finland somehow has a really interesting procurement platform where they have all the spendings from all the government agencies, and since yesterday, from all, not all, but the biggest municipalities. But it's planned that all the municipalities are going to be forced to put their data on it. And you can see all the, am I so late? you can see all the buyers and the sellers, and you can rank. So I can just see if Volvo, for example, how much cars they are selling to the given government agency. And the last one, I'm going to go really quickly. It's the US government itself who has a project, which is also mostly open source, where you can see, you can have great visualization of any spending in any state, any congressional district. And what I think is interesting is that they do
Thematization.
Yeah, so they don't just release the data, but they do great insights. For example, they have this, like how much is the US government spending in education in colleges, and so the goal is both so that people, to show that the government is doing something as in funding programs. It's part advertisement, but it's also to give insights to journalists and so they had a great program of homelessness where they talked about all the programs in municipalities, in states, in the country, all the homeless programs and how much actually the government at every level is spending on fighting homelessness. And they drew great insight that could be used then by associations and so. And so they do this kind of cooperation also with civil society. And any visualization, you can always see this download button, so you can always download the data on anything. It's always open data, of course. Yeah, so now I'm going to hand it to Sushma to talk about what we've done so far in the project.
Thank you. I'll go real quick and to talk about what we've done so far. We started this summer, and we requested the invoices from 10 of the municipalities in Sweden, and Alessandro was the one who was requesting all this information through one of the platforms called Handling R, where we can directly request the bodies, the public body, government bodies about the information. And he has had a lot of experience in that, and I think he would like to share some of them.
Yes, hello everybody, I'm Alessandro. We chose bigger cities. We thought to conclude a smaller city or like a part of regionals as well. So to have like a good survey of what is the current status. So we asked the invoices and the supply ledger, the Levantors res contran. We received a completely full answer only from 4 municipalities, which actually 2 of them already have the open data portal, so they're already kind of ready for it. Partially, like by 4 municipalities of them, because first they might ask some payment if you receive more than a certain amount of information, like more than 19 pages, for example. So we could never get full data, or otherwise we completely stopped because of they need to check security and privacy reasons, and we missed completely no answer at all from 2 municipalities. Nothing was that easy actually. How long would it take? You were expected longer or short? Maybe the average is about 2 weeks from the municipality to answer. The shortest 3 days, very nice. The longest 3 weeks. And we received different type of data in different formats. I would say we kind of see any kind of spots of problems a bit here everywhere. First of all, like often we've been asked to pay if we want to have more data than the complete set we could have. We asked to have from April and June, just 2 months of all the facturas and the leverance contour. Even though it might be not too big list, but anyhow, we were being stopped for many times. Sometimes each municipality didn't have good awareness of their systems, even though they have open data portals. So we got a long list of answers, and you can check the website, so that's a public result, so you can check yourself. Data was shared sometime in Excel files. We can play with data in this way, but sometimes just in PDF. So it's a usable format to quick have some data processing. And no matter how each municipality shares the data in the way they have it, their table, the sheet's name, the columns is all different. So how can we go forward that if it's already stopping that way?
Could I ask you a little bit, because you were running out of time, kind of. But what is the next? What do you want to do in the next step?
So this is some of the visualizations that we produced so far, and this is you can talk about.
Yeah. So I'll go quickly, and then for our plan, our vision, we have planned to create release a platform, BI platform that we just PR just showed an example of about Finland, similar like that for investigative journalist. As one of the previous presenter mentioned, that people don't know where to go for information or how they can ask. That can be an ideal platform where they can find all the information and draw their insight from. Another one is we are planning to release a BI MVP for the public entities, and they would create the visualizations or the insights out of that platform. And we also want to advocate. We have been trying to advocate about releasing the data, and we want to continue and convince the public entities to release the data and request if they don't. And we also want to create an ecosystem around that data. We want to create visualizations for for researchers, for government agency, public sectors, other organizations, and journalists. That's what we're trying to do. And for our long-term goal, we plan to increase the procurement efficiency by 1%. That would be 7 million kroner, and that's a huge amount. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So.
If you're interested, I think there were a lot of projects talking about public spending. I think we're looking at the same kind of data, just different ways to reuse it. So the goal of this project is really broad, and we don't really know any. And we still, every time we meet a new government agency, we ask them for the needs, for example, what they would like to do with the data. So if you also have needs, I think we should team up and try to get that data, because again, it's really unique that it's not open. It's not, in many countries it is open. It's just in Sweden, but it's owned by a company called Visma, who has a monopoly on IT services.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Can I just add to that? I think that your project is actually that, to enable, and mine as well, to get the data and to make it public, because this database, as I'm sure you know, it exists in commercial platform within Dagens Samhälle. They have got the numbers that you do, and they've done it to the best practice. So it's
not all of it.
There are commercial services using this, but then there are a threshold, and some of those commercial businesses really using that threshold to not keep everyone else out of it. So I think this is a very important and transparent issue, and actually using journalist method, you can actually start getting out this data in a good way from the authorities. So if you every month, this is the format we want, and you start sending a request every month to that authority, they probably soon will go over to releasing it in a good way. So you can use the Freedom of Information Act in Sweden, that is quite powerful, but you can also, so you can get that information out. No municipality or no state organization could say that they can release this data, but we need to release it in a good way so it can be used. But as you said, connect and do something together with this. There are several ideas about this. Yes, Din Riksdag.
I'm going to try to keep it to 5 minutes this time. Yeah, so Din Riksdag is the first civic tech project I created in Sweden. It was a bit my baby, but no one, it's too ahead, I think. So I've kind of died, but someone asked me about it the other day, so I thought I would present it. So Din Riksdag, it's about citizens making the laws, and not just the ones that get elected every 4 years, but anyone. So if we look at the legislative process in Sweden, you have these steps. So from the idea, basically, there is a government investigation, then the government writes the bill, some other steps, and then in the parliament you have the bill is sent, there is a commission debates, then there's the main debate and the vote. And in these steps, it's mostly, I mean, civil servants and MPs that do it. So how would you go if you wanted to contribute? If you have a really great idea, for example, about new law, I don't know, Samtyckeslagen, and you think you have an idea, or you're an association actually, and you want to reach out to a minister. So you have theoretically in Sweden, because everything is so open, you can just send an email to these people. So let's say this one is the minister, I don't know, these ones are the tjänstepersoner, civil servants, and these ones are the MPs. You can just do it. In theoretically, the emails are really easy to find, right? Well, in practice, we looked at the data. No one does it first. And in practice, the impact of what you sent is really little. Often you get a polite answer telling you, oh, thanks for the feedback. And then nothing happens, of course. And even if something happens, you don't even know about it. And then there's other problems. The problem is usually these people, so we'll call them the lobbyists, have a far better access to the government when they want to have an impact on legislation. And the other problem is if someone else has a really similar idea to you, you will never know about it. You might send the same email to MPs. MPs have like 300 emails per day that say maybe more or less the same thing. The only thing they can do, of course, is to answer politely, thanks for your feedback, because they have no way to do it effectively. It's interesting, I mean, but it's like this in Sweden, because it's not like this in other countries. So I got this really funny answer at Almedalen a few years ago. I asked an MP what she was doing from the emails she got, and she was like, oh, I take my job really at heart. Every time a citizen sends me an idea by email, I write a motion about it, and then in September, when we have this time when we can send as many motions as you want, I send them all into the parliament. And I was like, oh, that's great. I mean, that's a great way to do your job. And she was like, how many passed? Well, she was like, 0, of course. But I sent them an email afterwards and tell them, hey, I took your idea into account. I thought this was the most ridiculous way to do citizen participation I've ever seen. I mean, but this MP, she was like, that's my job. I don't know. Well, so I thought I would give you a few international examples because, as you might expect, as usual with Sweden, it's different in other countries. So I chose examples that are close to Sweden because usually that's better to nudge kind of Sweden. Actually, if you look at Nordic countries and Baltic countries, all the Nordic countries and all the Baltic countries have a petition platform for the parliament, except Sweden, back to the red. And it can take different forms. For example, in Estonia, it's a platform that's called Rarvalgus2.ee, and you can just push a petition with 1,000 supports. The parliament needs to have a debate about it. I think it's in commission. Same for Denmark. It's called Borgerforslag. It's 50,000 support. Same with Finland. It's also 50,000 support. Interesting fact for Finland, they got same-sex marriage in 2014 with a petition from this platform. So it can actually pass interesting ideas. And the interesting example that I already knew about before starting this project is the one I saw in France. In France, we have a platform where citizens can basically not just push petitions, but they can basically write laws with MPs on a Google Doc. It's a bit more advanced than this, but basically the government publishes the draft of the bill, and then anyone can amend a word, add a comment, and so, for example, this law, which was the first one we tested it with, it was in 2015, and 21,000 people and civil society organizations took part. And it was huge. And since then, it's been done 6 times, I think. And this is just one way. I mean, there's many other countries have many different ways. So Din Riksdag, I created it at first. We're like, oh, we're going to implement this. And I thought it's going to be simple. It's revolutionary. And actually, no one gets it. And everyone tells me the Swedish system doesn't work like this. It's different. We cannot do it. So actually, I rebranded Din Riksdag. Now the slogan could be, let's try something at least. Instead of bringing the perfect solution, my mojo is more like, okay, let's try something new. I mean, let's try maybe a petition platform for 6 months. If it doesn't work, we switch that. But let's innovate. So we have some. So I organized 4 workshops, and I interviewed about 25 MPs in the parliament, mostly at Almedalen, but also in other parts. And we got a lot of learnings from this. So this is the learnings, the ideas. We base them on the learnings. So if we look back at the flow, first we think that there's a lack of information, especially in these steps before the bill comes into in the parliament. Usually you have no idea that the bill is already written because you learn about it when the media start talking about it, and usually that's 1 day before the vote. That's way too late. So first we thought we would open some data and inform about it. So that's what we did through a sub-project called Open Remis. Then the second flow would be to open participation, and for that we use an open source platform that's the most used in the world for citizen participation. That's called Decidim. So anyone can submit an idea or discuss something they're against in a law. Then the first step is to, is to link it to these official channels that already exist. So for example, there's one step where the government is they're publishing an investigation, statens offentlig utredning, and then they are forced to read all it's called a remissvar, so in the remis process. So our idea was, why don't we send the discussions we have on the platform straight to the civil servants, so they are forced to read it, and ideally we get in communication with them, so then they will also use the platform to communicate to citizens. And then these other ways would be to use citizen motions that are taken by MPs directly to the parliament to vote. But instead of just doing it in a stupid way like this MP was doing, but let's do it with crowdsourced petitions that maybe get 5,000 votes, so we know they are kind of good quality and they have the legitimacy of being pushed. So this is the 2. And then the cooperation with civil servants. And the project we created, so all the source code, all the open data we released, everything is open. So if you want to discuss it or just reuse it, actually, because this project is kind of paused now, feel free.
Yeah, thank you. Just to add on, a lot of municipalities do have their citizen propositions, but not on the Riksdags level. And I think this is a great idea, and just framing it in the right way, I would say. Is there any questions to Pierre about this?
How will you handle the back channel? Because I mean, I don't know how involved you are in law making process, but I was, for instance, helped changing a law this summer in Almedalen by drinking wine with one of the ministers. I'm not going to go into details, but that happened, and it changed. And that's basically the way you do it in Sweden. You have wine with someone, or you like back channel your way.
Yeah, vänskapskorruption.
Or you try to convince media, because media has a way on politics, but you never talk to politicians usually unless you know them personally.
Yeah.
This platform fits kind of weird in all of that structure. What's your take on that? Because I mean, I think the current system is very, very bad, so I'm not saying...
Well, my take, I don't think I have time to take on, but my take on it is that the platform will not solve anything in itself. So in the Riksdag, I removed all the slide, but the point is that the platform doesn't change anything. What you need to change is the process, and the platform can do something because maybe MPs will like, yeah, innovation, but in practice, as you said, vänskapskorruption, nepotism is really strong in Sweden, and so you need to take care a lot about representativity when you do this process, and the government doesn't care. I mean, I think civil servants individually, they might have the best intentions. So, for example, if they do a law about jämställdhet, they will go to the associations they know to ensure that representativity of all the opinions are met, but not all the time. And so, in the same way, if you open a petition platform or anything, you will always need to look at these factors. And you will always, so what's interesting in the French platform is that because it's so open to push an opinion towards a bill, it becomes suspect if the government changes a bill and adds an amendment. Then they're like, oh, where does it come from? So the government has to justify itself. And they cannot just say, oh, I was drinking wine with a lobbyist in Almedalen, and then suddenly I thought I would add this amendment. So every word of a draft of a bill becomes justified. And that's kind of the goal, but it's not enough, I think. You still need to reach out to organizations, to people in underrepresented areas to still get them involved, because otherwise you have a law that only benefits to the few. That's my short answer.
Yes, will keep this very short, I hope. And this is really a presentation by tabbing in a web browser. See if I can get. I really got this. I've been thinking about some things back in my mind that it was a problem, and then I talked to this man. Probably some of you knew him. It's Jan Ainali. He was the Wikimedia chairman in Sweden for a long time, and then he was working in the EU Commission with Max Andersson as helping him when he was a parliament leader. And now he works at something called the Foundation for Public Code, and that is a open source promoting foundation in Amsterdam. And trying to think about what the problem is. I'm a journalist, but now I work as in a big consultant firm called Sverige. And we do a lot of work together with municipalities and authorities, but we see a problem that they don't really are used to work with open source projects because they don't have the competition. So they actually go to the proprietary system because they used to do it. And this is a big failure, I think, because there's a lot of costs going into licenses when you have like 200 or 2,000 or even more people working with licenses. A lot of money goes into that. So what Jan is working on is actually building this kind of platforms that they have in Italy. And this is a platform where all public open source projects is published. And so you can search if you are a municipality, or you can see what open source publics are and what software companies is supporting this. So you actually don't have to go to the proprietary solutions. So if you want to procure for example, a school platform that is really on the top of the mind in Sweden. You don't want to go to open source because you don't know that. But if you know that there are hundreds of other municipalities working on that, and you have hundreds of actual software companies working on that code, then you can do a procurement based on that. So this is actually some kind of database where you connect the software companies supporting the open source projects, and the municipalities who is paying for it. So it's actually some kind of a meta database where you can have searchable and mix the software companies with the municipalities, and then you can have this ecosystem that's so important when you actually. And then if you procure one software companies to actually to manage your platform, and you're not satisfied with that, you just go to another one, and you can actually start working on the same platform with another company. So this is something that I would like to steal and send to Sweden, and I think my organization, I'm talking for myself right now, would be very interesting, because we're not a product company. We really want to make the best benefit of our money in the public system in a good way, and I think there are lots of companies that want to do that as well. Yeah, so there are some pizza, a bit cold maybe. But the thing was that it was interesting hearing everyone talk, and now it's more like go and talk to each other and mix up. And I think there are procurements here, and we have a lot of journalist initiatives, local initiatives that I think we should work on. Someone else who wants to say something about here?
I'm just curious about something. This is not recorded.
What?
I have a question that's kind of sensitive. Some of you work in public projects, with public money, like in a procurement. I've never been in a procurement project where not something has been, shall we say, fishy. Is there anyone here who's worked in a public project where this haven't been like really weird in terms of corruption, breaking rules, something like that?
I would say that it's a sliding scale. I think we have procurement processes in Sweden that's kind of difficult and hard to manage, and I think there was someone mentioning here that maybe the ones winning the procurements is the best was actually writing the applications or doing the avrop on this, and not the ones that.
Something that's more than just work.
But I would say that I know the upphandlingar, for example, that's really the key part of this is to make it transparent. Because if you make it transparent for everyone, it's more open. But I think we have problems with LOU that it's a good thought, but it doesn't really work. And everyone kind of knows that, but then you try to do it, and the lowest price is not the best that you know, but that a price is a price, and then you get for the lowest. But if you want to go for quality, or you want to go for agile development in a project, it's really hard to do. Then you need to have really good people on the procurement side to actually do that. Yeah.
Just want to add that the actual procurement is just a small piece of the process. So what's going on before that is even more interesting, I would say. And the amount of money poured into affecting and trying to influence the demands.
So I'm obviously not the only one who has this experience.
Well, I couldn't say every, but yeah, sure.
It's hard to say that the corrupt persons working in the municipalities in every procurement, but no.
There's a level to
No, and I guess it's kind of the system fault in the system. They want to do right, but it's hard to do right in this system we have. Okay, then I think we thank you everyone here from the stage, and let's start talking to each other. Thanks.